Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Inside Your Screen. This is our podcast, our Halloween special podcast. I'm joined with my first co-host, who is so ugly, when he walks through a haunted Halloween house, he comes out of a paycheck. It's Brendan Horgan. Hello, Brendan.
Hey, Tony.
How you doing? You good?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Did you like my little insulting intro to you there?
I've had better.
On my left-hand side is a guy who's so stupid that for Halloween this year, I was going to dress up as him, but I suddenly remembered how stupid he was, and he'd taken it as a compliment rather than the insult that I originally intended it to. It's Mike Prime. How you doing, Mike?
I was a lot better before I heard that, but I'm good.
So I've got to ask, guys, it's the month of Halloween. I've been making videos every day this month for Shocktober. Video games. Some of them been good, some have been bad. Have you been watching? What are your thoughts? Do you have your own games that you play at Halloween? Do you have your own films that you watch at Halloween? Tell me. Mike.
Okay, so I'm a big fan of Halloween, the holiday and the film series, and I will always take any opportunity to watch the Halloween films. I actually just recently rewatched the latest installment of Halloween where Jamie Lee Curtis comes back again.
Oh, the more recent one.
The most recent one.
Yeah.
And I mean,
what did you think?
I'm still disappointed.
You know, they've got Halloween Kills coming out, so they've got the sequel now with Jamie Lee Curtis again. Like, it's this weird thing where they did this kind of reboot of Halloween, which has had its own kind of franchise and stuff. What are your thoughts about that? Because I know for myself, I watched the kind of remake Halloween. I was a bit disappointed. She's like this kind of they basically retconned a lot of the kind of franchise, much as like the same way a lot of these type of films do. But now you've got Jamie Lee Curtis, who's this like 60-year-old like batshit crazy woman who's in the kind of she's like fortified her house. It's like this kind of complete and utter, fortress. But Michael Myers still comes back, and they have to go through that kind of thing. But then they have Halloween Kills because of COVID, because of the whole stuff going out. It was meant to be released this October, but they've had to delay the release. So I think it's going to be out next year, I believe.
As someone who hasn't seen this recent one or has no clue about it, is it a continuation from the old Jamie Lee Curtis one? So is it the same character?
It's like a continuation of the first Halloween film.
So in essence, this would be Halloween 2.
Yeah, they've retconned. So all the I can't remember how Halloween. They've retconned all the others. It's like Halloween 1 happened. Now she's turned into like this kind of crazy spinster woman who's like literally has all these guns and ammos. She's basically become Macaulay Culkin. She's made her house this like death trap house in case he comes back, and he does.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed, as you were saying, Mike. A little bit disappointed by the whole how it all went, essentially. But yeah. What about you, Brendan? What have you been watching? Any Halloween films this month? Is there a particular Halloween film that you watch every year that you're like, I need to watch this again?
No.
Just a flat out no.
If I'm honest, I'm not like, I know because you guys are both massive into kind of horror and Halloween. I've never been a kind of Halloween guy. I don't mean to be the good, like it's fun. I've been to many a Halloween party, but I've never kind of got Halloween. I've kind of
get in the sea, Brendan.
I think, mate, I'll be honest.
Get out of here.
It might have been one of those ones. As a kid, my parents wouldn't allow me to go trick or treating. And maybe that was it. Maybe I didn't have kind of experience.
I was the same. I wasn't allowed to go begging, as I was told.
Yeah. No, I was exactly the same. Like, my parents were like, "Look, you're not going trick or treating because that's a form of begging." And when you're that young and you have like some friends that are going out, I was like, "Oh, you're missing out on this kind of like thing." In retrospect, now I actually thank my parents and say, like, well, yeah, because you're right, because all you're doing is really go. It's not America. Like, I'd love to be in America during Halloween because I know they really go all out sort of thing for it. Over here, it's more of a kind of like, you dress up as a slutty nurse. That's just me. And you go out and you kind of like have parties and stuff.
Like, I've lost count of how many kids over the years have turned up on my door with literally just a black bin bag.
Yeah.
trick or treat.
But do you give them sweets or do you give them money?
Sweets. So if I'm honest, in recent years, because there's quite a lot of kids around the area I live in, so in recent years I'll always kind of have sweets. I'll put the pumpkin out, and but because you do get big groups of kids turning up at your doorstep, and if I didn't have this, and it's very much, you just buy one of those big bags and multi-packs of Haribo. They've always got them on offer, and you just through rather, because I do remember being younger when the kids would come around trick-or-treating, and it would be my parents, they would give them money, but it would be this panic of running through the pockets looking for change and stuff. And then if you've got 5 kids, like, what do you give them each? So we've kind of cottoned on just with there being a lot. It's a lot more common now. Obviously, we won't have it this year because they're not allowed. So I might just put a bucket of sweets out the front of the house and just help yourself.
And a little pumpkin, like a plastic pumpkin.
I do. I've got a little
with pumpkin. A little note saying, "Please take one."
No, because there is. I know.
Don't take them all.
I always have a pumpkin light outside the front of the house because that's more as in peak. I know. I've got friends with kids. Mike, you've got kids, and I'm not sure if you take yours out, but it very much is if there's this, you're not sure of what doors to knock on. You don't want to offend anyone. So I think a lot of people just end up knocking on their mates' houses' doors or people they know's doors.
Yeah. Well, isn't there a thing as well? Like, people will put a pumpkin out. Like if people want.
That's exactly hence why I do it, because it's like I do have sweets there. So if there's kids around who want some sweets on Halloween, knock on my door. Do you know what I mean? They're there for you.
So what Brennan's basically saying is, if you're a kid, go knocking around at Brennan's door because he'll accept you.
If they're trick-or-treating.
I didn't say that. I just...
Well, that's what I said.
If you're a child and you want to knock on Brennan's door, he's open for you. Anyway. Moving on swiftly. Sorry. I had to get my little pedo joke in there somewhere. You gotta have jokes.
I don't get why we've only got 36 subscribers. Because
this is what we're talking. You got to have these chats. You got to have the banners. You got to have the.
I don't know, man. Paedophilia. We're not popular enough for paedophilia to
You set yourself up, Brendan. You were basically saying, "Kids, Tony, come round my house. Come round my house, kids."
Tony, if you've got 100,000 followers, and you've got
house, kids,
you can maybe push the.
Come round my house. I'll have you.
We're not. You're not.
All right, we're moving on. So, I wanted to talk about what's been inside your screens this week. It doesn't have to be Halloween based. I'm going to shoot this at Mike. What have you been watching this week, Mike?
So this week, I actually watched a new film on Netflix called The Binding. It's an Italian horror film.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Did you watch it? Did you?
No, I've got a quick question before you start. Is it a subtitled film or is it a dubbed film? Because it's Is it Italian?
Right. So it's a subtitled film. Yeah. Generally speaking, I will watch foreign cinema with subtitles. Anything TV wise, like things like Narcos and stuff, I feel like you get the full experience hearing it in their native tongue.
I agree. Yeah.
But in this instance, I started watching it and I didn't realize that it had automatically gone to English audio with the subtitles.
So you had to change.
I was about 15 minutes in before I realized it, and I was like, do you know what? Just turn the subtitles off and I'll just watch it in English. Sure. Which, in hindsight, I wish I hadn't have done. But it's a decent enough film. In fact, I'll give it the full premise. The film story follows. This is terribly written on Wikipedia. The film story follows visiting. Do you know what? You'll have to edit it out because literally I'm reading it as it says.
Yeah, no worries.
The story follows a family while visiting a fiance's mother in southern Italy. A woman must fight this mysterious and malevolent curse intent on claiming her daughter. Mm-hmm. So they go to this massive house where the lady's husband's mother lives. And it's just a bit of a freaky house. It's huge. It's really run down. And it's kind of signs of people practicing like black magic and things like that around the place. And then the daughter gets bitten by a tarantula.
As you do.
And then, as you do in Issue. And then
not a bat though. So, you know.
No, so she's all right. So it's localized.
Pandemic.
No, it's just a localized issue. Italy's had enough of it already. But Yeah, and then it just, the story focuses on the kind of relationship between the mother and her son and why this is all happening. And again, I mean, I won't spoil it because if there's no spoiler kind of talk about it. You know, there are some films they are brilliant. I'm not saying this is brilliant. They're brilliant up until the point that they are very not brilliant.
Is it one of those ones?
Yes. So you're watching it and then you just think, why have you shown me that? You were doing just fine until you did.
Okay, and then there was a point where it's like, no.
Yeah. So I mean, as Brendan said, I'm a big horror movie buff. I love horror films. My favorite ones are from the 70s and 80s, as I'm sure we'll talk about later on. But it just seems like anything that is made now, they're so intent on just showing you who the evil presence is. They're just desperate to get it in your face, and it just detracts so much. And this film, unfortunately, follows exactly the same routine as
tried and tested. That's a shame, man, because I did see it. Like I love horror films, and I love watching films that I haven't actually sort of seen. Like I'm a kind of one of those people that I will literally watch a film that I've seen 10 times before around Halloween just because I love it and all that kind of stuff. But I also want to be watching a new film or a modern adaptation of something that's more like, I want you to kind of essentially surprise me. And it's very rare that can happen now. Yeah. So you become jaded, and it's easy to kind of fall back into a kind of like, well, what I loved from back in my youth, I'm going to watch those kind of things. That's why I was asking like you guys earlier before, like, you know, what kind of films do you kind of like, is there a kind of film that you watch religiously, if you will, around this time? Like Christmas films is the same thing. Like, you know, Elf will come out, for example. I'll watch that again at Christmas because it's the theme, it's the kind of era and all that kind of stuff.
Do you know what?
I don't want to frighten you, but someone's just come in the room behind you.
Yeah, it looks like the Scream character, hood on, and yeah, that's the Scream murderer. You're dead. But I did say earlier that there was nothing during Halloween. But if I'm honest, probably the most common thing for Halloween with me would be The Simpsons Treehouse. The Simpsons Halloween episodes, what they call Treehouse of Horrors,
Treehouse of Terrors,
of Terrors. Yeah. So
well,
that would
so this is
be
interesting because like
that would be the most Halloween thing I do every Halloween.
No, listen, I get what you're saying because they had some like really good episodes, but I haven't watched The Simpsons like for the past like 5 years in terms of like their new stuff, and I'm sure they're doing it every year as well, and every Halloween they're releasing a new one.
Yeah.
Have you guys like tell me like the most recent Treehouse of Terror or Treehouse of Horror, whatever it is?
I've probably saw last year's one, if I'm honest, but I couldn't recall. I don't think The Simpsons in most recent years, I think that's probably common knowledge and most people would agree. It's not as good as it used to be. It's kind of, you know, but I probably did watch last year's one. It doesn't jump out as one of those memorable ones, or I couldn't tell you what happened in it. But I've seen lots of the modern ones. Again, Simpsons would be one of those ones where I wouldn't necessarily sit there like and binge, but you know, you might just catch the odd episode on Channel 4 or on Sky or wherever it may be, and you just, you know, it's on, so you watch an episode you've never seen before. But that would be the most common Halloween themed kind of show, or that I would watch.
The
Simpsons Halloween specials. Yeah.
But that's the thing, like I haven't seen any of the recent ones, and I don't know how they kind of like stack up because they're given like verbatim to like kill off characters that, you know, the last character I know they killed off was Ned Flanders' wife, for example, and that was like the most shocking thing of like we're actually killing the character. That's the last time I kind of interacted with that kind of like, you know, Simpsons sort of style. But I know with the Halloween,
by that.
And some people, and that's the thing. Like some people did, but hey, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna sort of say what's been inside my screen this week. There's a horror film that I've watched, an independent horror film, which is called The Cleansing Hour on Shudder. If you have Shudder, I kind of highly recommend it. It kind of,
for those who don't know what it is, what is Shudder?
Shudder is a channel that's devoted to horror.
TV channel?
Yeah, like if you've got Amazon Prime, it's like one of those kind of like add-on, like, you know, like the Disney Plus or whatever sort of thing. It's one of those types of...
It's streaming.
It's a streaming sort of service, like Netflix, that kind of thing. But they're just devoted to horror. And what I love about Shudder is what they do is they have like old horror, like we're talking like 70s, 80s, 90s, but they also, like Netflix, produce their own horror as well. And this is basically about, I'm going to just read it here sort of thing. Two failed filmmakers have found success running a webcast that streams live exorcisms. However, every episode is elaborately staged hoax created to dupe their global audience. But basically what happens is when their latest subject turns out to be actually demon possessed, the two guys have to, like, you know, combine forces. It basically, what it's doing, it takes this kind of trope that's been tried and tested before, like the whole, like, you know, it's almost, it's not found footage because they're doing a kind of streaming service, and it's a very kind of they've got the kind of social what's the word I'm looking for? Like streaming, social media stuff that's going on. You know, we've got to get the views, we've got to get the followers, all that kind of stuff. That's the heart of what they're trying to do. But it's actually done in quite a really good way. There's a lot of characters that see things that may or may not be there. I don't want to spoil it for people. I do think you should watch it, because I kind of like saw an advert for it and I was like genuinely intrigued, because I do like those kind of, like, I'm a sucker for like possession films. I'm a sucker for like poltergeist films. I'm a sucker for all those kind of, like, you know, like The Exorcist sort of thing. I love that kind of stuff. And when you have a kind of mix of like these two entrepreneurial people that are just doing like a streaming service, but it's basically fake. And you can see that in this day and age now, where people are doing that kind of stuff with YouTube, and, you know, they're not being their kind of real selves. But then you have a demon that's like, you need to confess all your sins live to your fans. That's what got me for it, sort of thing.
So just a quick question, is the way the movie done, like, you're the viewer of their social media, so it's kind of done as in you're watching them stream,
I did say found footage, but like no, it's done in a very kind of formulaic sort of thing. The two main protagonists, as you will, like, one of them is called like he's called like Father Max kind of thing or something like that. He's like this kind of, he basically looks like Jesus if you look it up, sort of thing. He's like this very young, attractive, you know, father, and he's like doing these exorcisms every week. And there are people that are just like, they love it, they believe it. You know, they make a point of like going to like different parts of the country when their like live stream is going on, so that they people can sort of see what they're doing.
Is this an American movie?
Yeah. But I do recommend it. The ending also as well, there is, without spoiling, there is a little bit of a twist that I didn't actually see coming. And I like to pride myself on those kind of people that is like, I can see when twists are coming. No, this actually did have a little twist that I didn't see. I was surprised. So yeah, I'd heartily recommend it. It's not well known, and that's why I would recommend it, but you may need a Shudder account to do that.
How much is Shudder?
Off the top of my, I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. I think if you've got like Amazon Prime, I think it's like an add-on. So I think like probably
like that, isn't it?
Yeah. But if you're into horror, like, I mean, you're not so much into horror, Brendan, so I don't know how you would feel about it. I love horror. And another thing that I want to say as well is, if you guys haven't watched it, watch this documentary. It's called Into the Darkness. It's been out for a while now. They're actually making a second part. It's basically a 4-hour documentary about 80s horror, 70s horror, 80s horror, all the horror films of that era, like the kind of golden era of slashers, of exploitation, of gory, of all that kind of stuff. I watched it not knowing it was a 4-hour documentary, had to stop it at some point to go, like, it's now like 2 o'clock in the morning. Oh, there's 2 more hours left. I binged it, the whole thing.
Wow.
But do watch it. It kind of encapsulates the kind of whole era of like how when we grew up, we're all around the same age. You know, the Freddy Kruegers, the Michael Myers, all that kind of stuff. So I do recommend it as a kind of documentary to watch. And they've got the talking heads. They've got a lot of like, you know, very well-known horror actors, directors, producers that are like giving their little shout outs, their little stories behind the scenes. It's very good if you haven't seen it. I think they had a Patreon. I think they had like a Kickstarter or something like that. At the time, I didn't know it was a thing, but part 2 is coming out. Check it out. Yeah.
Okay.
So Brendan, Mike and I have talked about, all right, Mike's talked about what's been inside his screen horror wise. But I mean, you don't even have to like, what's your favorite horror film, Brendan, of all time? Tell me your favorite horror film of all time.
Probably Child's Play, the very original Child's Play, the Chucky doll. That was a series. That was a horror series. I mean, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed the horror. I probably enjoyed it more when I was growing up. So yeah, and I loved Child's Play. Was one of those ones. My brother, my brother was, I kind of have an older brother or sister, so I kind of, you know, very much in a house of 3 kids, you watch what they watch and you've got no other choice. And my brother was and sister were both big into their horror. But we were really young. I don't know. I was probably about 9 or 10, and he won a competition where he won an actual Chucky doll. It was actually a Chucky doll that it was a
Mike's is shaking his head. No,
do you remember?
no.
I'm definitely showing my age here, but my brother and sister used to enter competitions in Smash Hits magazine.
Oh wow!
And that's where they both won they both entered a competition. One was it was an actual Chucky doll. It was like a mini Chucky doll that had, you know, the little sticky things so you could stick it in your car window. I think
like
it was
Garfield,
exactly.
Yeah. Everyone had that Garfield.
Exactly, one of those. And my sister entered a competition the same week for the New Kids on the Block live concert video. And both my brother and sister won the competition on the same week. I have a feeling they did that because it was like, we can put them both in the same like envelope and only spend postage once. Probably, I don't know. They were like, we're going to save 50p on postage here, so let's just give it to them too. But he had this Chucky doll. And even though I watched the movies...
Was it a life size? Was it a life size?
No,
not
it was
life size, but like, you know.
I would say it was about, you know, 12 inches. Maybe,
okay.
You know, it wasn't like, you know, I think the concept of Chucky is he's probably supposed to be about 3 foot high, isn't he? Like, he's not tiny. It's quite a big doll. But it was smaller than that. But even though I used to watch the horror movies, I shit my pants. I was really scared by them. And this is a true story. I used to stick pins in that Chucky doll's heart just in case. I'm not lying.
You're an abomination of human nature.
I used to go into my mum's old sewing basket and get a little pin, and I used to prick the heart of that fucking doll just in case.
Wow. Wow. Have you seen the most recent then, Chucky?
No.
They did a reboot it's on Netflix now.
The last Chucky I saw was Bride of Chucky. I know they've redone the original, but I don't know. I don't really want to. I'm not like, I'm kind of not like yourself. Because you're big into your horror, you're going to go, right, I want to see this new take on it. Whereas I did. Yeah, that was. Nah, I'm not interested because they're probably going to ruin it, make it worse. So I'll stick to my original.
It was. I'll be honest. Have you seen it, Mike? Have you seen the rebooted Chucky?
I watched about half of it, I think, and then I switched off. Trash.
There you go.
Yeah.
Why did you think it was trash? Because I knew they were like going with the whole like technological aspect of like basically making Chucky like this Wi-Fi-esque like doll that can take control of electronics and shit.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, like you're supposed to be able to control them with your phone and all that, and it just doesn't work. It was just, again, it was so generic. You could watch 15 minutes of the film, and if someone gave you pen and paper and said, write the rest of the film, you would 9 times out of 10 or 9 points out of 10 you would get right.
Yeah. The thing, like as you said, like Brendan, like the original Chucky was like is a serious kind of 80s horror sort of like of course. Any franchise, especially like Freddy, for example, becomes a caricature. So obviously, as the Chucky films went on, they went to the kind of comedic slapstick sort of side of things. But the original Child's Play was like a kind of
that was a lot of people
horror 80s, like
and it was almost a thriller as well because
because you got this kid who's like, my doll's coming to life, and they're like, what are you talking about, kid?
It wasn't over the top, and you're totally right. Child's Play ended up going like to a really over the top kind of comic book almost esque, horror comic book esque.
Oh no, there's no almost about it. I remember watching Son of Chucky, and it was about his child who is a nervous, anxious wreck. He's trying to live up to his father's name, but he's literally shaking with fear at everything.
Yeah.
And he's trying to force him to be a murderer.
Yeah.
At that point, you think, right, you might have gone a bit down a rabbit hole here of trying to do.
I always remember the first 1, 2, and 3. Child's Play 1, 2, and 3 were the ones. And I remember Child's Play 3 obviously was really controversial in the UK.
Bad things,
Yeah.
Well, because of the Jamie Bolger
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and totally unjustifiable. But anyway, let's not go into that. But the first three movies were real. I would say they were good. Again, the third one did teeter off a little bit because they went away from the little boy concept, and it was a kind of teenage.
Well, the third one, he was like in some academy, wasn't he? He was
and he was a teenager.
army academy. Like,
so it was that. Yeah. But the first two were terrifying. Do you know? I'm saying a lot. I'm just recalling them now, so they obviously did have an impact. But the second one, I think it's the final scene in Child's Play 2,
when they're in the doll factory. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like this whole like
the imagery of that is fantastic.
These dolls that come up, like they put them in this thing, and it's like
Just the concept of your finale in a big warehouse of wall-to-wall Chucky dolls was just image like it was brilliant. So
you wake up in night sweats sometimes, just thinking like that Chucky doll is just there, Brendan.
No, I don't know. Okay. But back then I did because I would always have a pin ready.
Okay.
But yeah, that would be my horror. Chucky,
okay.
Chucky, awesome.
Well, guys, I think that's going to wrap up this kind of section of Inside Your Screen for the Halloween section, talking about the films that we've been liking and enjoying. Is there anything else that you guys want to comment on in terms of like, Halloween? I know like this year is a bit weird because with the social distancing, and are you guys going to be dressing up? If so, what would be your character that you're dressing up as?
I won't be dressing up this year. But I do actually want to tell an interesting story. So I think I've mentioned to you guys before. So when I was 16, my first job was I worked in a wacky warehouse, which for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's a child's ball pit play area.
Yeah.
And we used to have a Halloween party there every year. I worked there for 3 years. And my first year there, being a fresh 16-year-old, I went out and I bought a costume. I spent £45 on a rubber Michael Myers mask. I got some overalls. And my dad drove me to work on his motorbike, and I went to work to do my 4-hour shift. I was sent home after 15 minutes, obviously. Because I turned up as a murdering serial killer. Didn't get paid for that day. Spent on a costume, and wasn't best pleased. But it was a lesson learned. Obviously, don't go to work to try and terrify kids and parents alike. No one really.
Yeah. And Brendan, what would you be dressing up as this year?
I don't dress up any year, Tony. So
you had to in the scheme of in the heart of the spirit of Halloween.
If I had to, I'd probably dress up as a clown.
Send in the clowns.
Yeah.
So like in Phoenix, like
let's get political. I'd get myself a blonde, scruffy wig, a suit, and a blue tie.
Fair enough. I would be going as a sexy nurse. Just to
no, but what costume would you wear, Tony?
A sexy nurse outfit, and then as I walk down the street, I would expect people to be clapping out their windows.
Yeah, we were told to stop.
We're talking about Halloween, not Monday to Friday.
Oh, not on the normal kind of Monday to Friday. Oh, okay.
That's on his way to work, clearly.
Yeah, that's just how I dress up when I go down the shops and stuff.
God bless the NHS.
God bless them. God bless them. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us on this Inside Your Screen podcast, and we will be with you again soon. Tune in. Brendan, do you want to lead us out?
Yeah, we've got loads of Halloween videos. Tony's been putting up an Shocktober special every single day on our YouTube channel. So just check out Inside Your Screen on YouTube. Check out Inside Your Screen on Twitter. Check out Inside Your Screen on Instagram. We are at Inside UR Screen, so you're a screen, and there's links to all the YouTube videos there. If you're a fan of independent horror games, this is the month for you. Tony's got reviews up there every single day, brand new games. There's even a playthrough which I'm involved with of the Dark Anthology's Man of Medan. So there's 4 parts to that. They're obviously the best 4 videos that are on there because I took part. But check out Tony's ones as well. Don't exclusively listen just to the ones that I'm in. They're all brilliant. So yeah, just search Inside Your Screen and you'll find all that magic.
All right, there we go. Okay, guys. Well, we'll see you on the next episode of the podcast of Inside Your Screen.